Yeah. Hard. Militant-minded General 9 grip the grip with blades and a pen that can sharpen your spine's tip. Level-headed though my mind flips from side to side with an acrobat's experience. After I stick it, I'm lyric down a demon-possessed Ahiye. Seems Jay's the best for the job with no code.
What's the word, y'all? It's KTR _podcast, No Rose Podcast, hashtag KTR. We are KTR. We are in the building. We are back for episode 48 of Know the Rose Podcast. I hate this angle of me right now with this camera. All right, cool. We back in action. Thank y'all once again for tuning in to No Rose Podcast. Yes, I switched my camera in mid-entrance, but this is KTR with your boys, Cinko, Big Harv, J-Bo himself, for episode 48 of Know the Rose Podcast. This is episode 48. 1748, the first 48 episode of the show. My brothers, how are y'all doing today?
Doing good, big dog. How about y'all?
I'm awake, man. You know, it's bright and early. You moved that camera like a centimeter and act like it made a difference.
It did.
All right. Yep.
It did. Thank you.
Wrestling, yeah.
Oh, before Harv comes up with more smart comments, we're just gonna get in the episode. But before we dive in this episode, real quick, y'all gotta do this one simple favor for us, and that is to follow us on all social media platforms: KTR _podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Know the Rose Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, Know the Rose Podcast on all podcast platforms: Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcast, Podbean. We're on everything, and don't forget to get your merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/KTR Podcast. That stuff's flow like water. But let's get in, let's go, let's dive to the episode right now. And we're gonna dive into AEW. We ain't been doing it for a little minute, and also we're gonna get back into it real quick. But Tony Khan has dropped a bomb on us. He gave us a big announcement this recent week. He had said he has something coming up in the future that he wanted to have some breaking news, some big news, some special news for the wrestling community, and that is a joint episode, a joint show, a big pay-per-view event with New Japan Pro Wrestling called The Forbidden Door. Why you shake your head? Had to build the suspense. You said
right.
What?
They need to hire somebody else to do these goddamn names.
We thought the name was too obvious.
That is horrible.
or two head ass. The Forbidden Door.
It was that for an event
that they always talk about. We like, no, forget. We're just gonna call it the Forbidden Door since everybody talks about. Knocking down the Forbidden Door, knocking on the Forbidden Door.
So the next one gonna be called the fourth wall. Ain't gonna knock down the fourth wall.
The big event's gonna be called the glass ceiling.
Glass ceiling, the brass ring.
The brass ring.
These names are horrible. Holy cow, that's terrible. That's a terrible name. Like the name is terrible. Okay, that's number one. The event I think is gonna be crazy. I think it's a good idea. I like the event. I like the idea. I also think Tony Khan needs to stop making announcements on TV. They got to figure out another way to do that. He doesn't need TV time. He needs zero TV time. He needs no TV time at all. They don't need to do the WWE thing with the authority figures and having them popping up all the time. This needs to be more. They are there to me. It's indicative of where they are as a company, as a wrestling company, and what they're trying to do. They're still trying to figure themselves out. They're still new, and that's a fact. It's 5 years. They're still new, but certain things I'm seeing are very relative to WWE and WCW still. Like it's a lot of small things that need to be fixed that are holding them back, in my opinion. Like the event's gonna be crazy, the announcement, okay, but TNA, Dixie Carter memes all over the place every time this dude does an announcement. It's really bad. Like, you stay off TV, get somebody else to do that part. Change the name of the pay-per-view, and we are gold. We're solid.
Go ahead, bro. I know you got something.
I'm equally excited about the episode, mainly because we saw teasing of this even dating back to when Kenta made a brief appearance for AEW when Moxley won the New Japan Pro Wrestling US title. So we saw signs of this, even though there was conflicting reports of maybe they'll do partnership, maybe not. But now that they are finally doing partnerships with each other, especially after AEW recently acquired Ring of Honor, they're bringing in all the real hard-hitting, strong style type wrestling organizations. Now, granted, they didn't buy out New Japan. Obviously, they're just partnering with them. But I think it's a great move when I see stuff like this, especially since this is the alternative to the WWE. I think back to when WWE, how they started when they bought up all of the territories that became what the WWE is today. But AEW is sort of just they got Ring of Honor now. They're partnering with these other wrestling organizations, but they're still letting them be other wrestling organizations. They're just coming together, which is good. It's good for the sport of wrestling. It still opens up eyes because, believe it or not, there's still even hardcore wrestling fans who don't even watch shows like Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Combat Zone Wrestling. I mean, the name goes on and on. Not even regularly. So AEW is doing a good thing. I do think that the name Forbidden Door, I think the only real reason that is as annoying as it is because Tony Khan keeps saying Forbidden Door, Forbidden Door, Forbidden Door, Forbidden Door, talking about these other wrestlers coming into the organization who's coming through that Forbidden Door with Impact Wrestling as well. This is overused, and now they just took it, became lazy, and just made a name out of it. Yeah, I can see how that's bad. I do agree with Harv that they don't need Tony Khan coming out making these type of announcements, especially for something as big as New Japan Pro Wrestling. I will give them credit though, because normally when they do say, "Hey, there's a big announcement coming," they actually do deliver on big announcements. So I have to give them that credit. And the whole partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling previously when they bought Ring of Honor, when they bring in individual wrestlers, those are all significant announcements, and I have to give them that credit. But after New Japan Pro Wrestling, unless you're buying it, there's no other real big announcement that you can use to top that at this point. So, yeah, I agree with Hard. They do need to find other ways to make announcements, make it fun. You can do interviews, fine, but use your social media. Have other wrestlers do it. Heck, make it a surprise. Don't even say nothing. Just let it happen. There's other ways to do it. But, hey, I digress. New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW Wrestling partnering up for the Forbidden Door show. It'll be a great show. We'll see great matches. I believe the card is going to be dope because they're normally good with good, dope pay-per-view cards. So at the end of the day, it benefits wrestling. So it's good.
No, J-Bo helped me this transition real simple, make this show easier, because I was gonna say, if you don't want to kind of say how else would you want to display the Forbidden Door pay-per-view to get put out in the media. He already just gave his 2 cents and everything, so good job, J-Bo. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, Cinko. Anytime.
And speaking of AEW, we're gonna dive into real quick to the Miss 30 and no Jade Cargill, her fine self. Lord be offense. Anyway, I'm sorry. It is Sunday. Let me. All right. Anyway, I ain't trying to say tomorrow. Easter was just last week. But Jade Cargill is now 30-0 with the TBS championship. It's a good feat for her. That's a good milestone, a good accomplishment. But it's just now the question is just like, what is next? How long will this undefeated streak go on for? Who will her next challenger be? And who could be the next person to actually dethrone from her title?
Let me tell you something. If we go back to a certain day when she made her debut, I post out on Twitter, and I specifically said that Jade Cargill is the it factor. She has everything that she
you did say that, and we kind of got a little backlash from it too.
We got back for that. We got some hate, but take a look at her now. She's going into the ring. She's dominating as the superstar that as a wrestler that she told us she was going to be. I saw that she was going to be, and I'll be honest with you, she's just as entertaining as any other champion on the roster. Now we're going to get some hate. Oh, you stretching now? You stretching now? What about Thunder Rosa? Or don't forget about Britt Baker. Forget all of them. Nobody else has had the exact presence that they had coming in from no wrestling background at all. But coming in with the look, with the size, the manager does help out. But she looks good with the title, and she is constantly the talk every week in some capacity. She's going to continue to do well. As far as what she's going to do after 30-0, I don't know. Continue to be great. Continue to be that bitch. Continue off to be the TNT champion that CBS champion that she is and she will be. I really don't care because I enjoy watching her every week. She could lose the belt and dominate. I don't know who else on the roster that I don't care about.
You don't care about.
It doesn't matter because she can go in and just dominate anybody else and just gonna be fun to watch. So I don't care what she does after this. Just continue to be great as she is.
I agree. I feel like the complaints are really funny because she's a built wrestler. She's one of those that we don't see as often and that we talk about what companies need more, where they come in and basic as hell and you see their rise, you see how they grow. And she's doing that, you know what I'm saying? That's exactly what you should want in a wrestler that you get behind. And it's just ironic that people are saying things like that. You know, they don't want to give her that credit, even though she out there grinding. You know what I mean? I agree. She's cold. I'm just, as far as what happens next, what she's doing now to me, and as you know, basically what I was just saying, she's building that prestige for herself. She's building herself as a wrestler. She's building prestige for that title. You don't see that before. You know what I mean? Like somebody holding it for that long and making it a big deal. They make the title a big deal. So then whoever does eventually take that title off becomes a big deal. You have big shoes to step in. That's how you're supposed to build the legacy of a title. As far as what happens next, like you said, I mean, she's gonna continue being dominant. Might be a contender for the title still. You know, if they end up losing it. There's just plenty of different avenues they can go down. You know, that's the part of building the legacy and building the prestige and building themselves as a character and as a wrestler. Is that more opportunities come up with that? I can't quite say exactly what would happen because AEW is a toss up in my opinion when it comes to these stories and such. But yeah, I agree 100%.
I want to piggyback off Harv. You know, you really brought prestige to a belt when you become synonymous with the championship title. Yeah. Now, when you look at Jade Cargill, you instantly think of the TBS championship because she looks so good with it. She is synonymous with the belt. That's just who she is. So now, when back to Harv was saying, if you take that belt off of her, now that belt has way more significance. Now it has more of a talk. Like, oh my goodness, you took the belt, you took the TBS championship off of Jade Cargill. That's huge. Think back, even if you agree with John Cena or not, even if you think to the very beginning when he came out with that spinner title, he was synonymous with that belt. So when that belt was finally taken off him, it was a surprise. If you look back when he turned the U.S. title into a spinner belt, he was synonymous with that belt. So when you took the belt off him, it meant something. That's exactly what Jade Cargill is doing right now, and she will continue to do that. It's how wrestling should be, especially for a wrestler who did not have any wrestling background. It's like she's natural with it. It's that she's exactly what a wrestler's supposed to be, especially in the women's division. Exactly what she's supposed to be.
Man, both dropping gems today, man. I wish I could go back and find that post and when he made that first post about commenting on Jade Cargill on how she would be this big or the biggest wrestler in AEW in the future. It's all about patience and time. And like people want stuff now, like, okay, clearly you saw the vision of her in her stardom, and you just gotta take time. And with her, it like she what 2 years later, she's there, she's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember that day like I'm like, why my phone keep buzzing? I'm like, this man's going back and forth with plenty of people on Twitter, like
it was real.
Exactly. I'm like, y'all just don't see it yet. That's the only thing about it. Like he saw it. I was like, Jay was the first person to see that.
Shout out to Seth Rollins. I saw the vision. Okay.
So yes, and also with that as well, she's also building up a faction too. Looks like with her baddie section, and also now she got Kiera Hogan, Red Velvet by her side too as well. It's just it just gets better and better. You can't beat that, you know.
Beat it. You cannot beat it.
Beautiful black women.
All day.
Moving on next says, okay, we I guess we're done with AEW. We're gonna dive into WWE real quick because a little stuff is going on in there. I had a couple topics of WWE that I sent y'all before, but I want to touch on this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fond of Ronda Rousey. I'm not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie to you. This
not new. It's not something never discussed before. It's not a big revelation.
It's not, but I just wanted to bring it back to light again. You know, it's this comeback. It's not it. It's stale. It's horrible. Like I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it for real. Like it's just not it. It's bad because it's coming from me. And I'm the person. I'm like, okay, let's try to keep positive. Like, no, I can't no more. I have to speak on it.
You've never kept positive about Ronda, to be fair.
You're right. I haven't, but still.
this time, I absolutely agree with you. I will say, first time around, I gave her more of a chance because it was the first time around, and she really didn't know what she was doing, and she wasn't that bad for me. Her moves were more fluid, and she knew how to work a crowd. She was monotonous and didn't really know how to talk, but she knew how to hit the certain notes to get the crowd behind her. And I think it has a lot more to do with her outside the ring antics too. But she doesn't respect the business. You can tell with how she does now. It's been 2 years since she left. She hasn't really improved at all. This is like you don't have the passion for it. You just it's in your whole attitude. You're there because you feel like you're doing everybody a favor to be there, and you're not putting on this subpar crap in the ring. You know what I mean? I'm just not. It's a complete 180. I'm not a fan either. I'm not happy with her return. I don't feel like she's trying at all, and that's annoying.
That's my thing. Like, I don't feel like she's trying at all. At least when you see like wrestlers come in, they have to do their little gimmick or personality, and they actually like put effort into it and just be over top. It's just she's like no, like that. Gotta have some type of career. You can't just rely off your name because you Ronda Rousey, because eventually again you're gonna get booed and you're gonna have another attitude about it all over again. So that's why I said the reason for the cheers now is because she's been gone for a while. She came back. So that makes sense. But eventually, how fans are in the universe, that will fade out if they get tired of it.
Mm-hmm. If you break down how Ronda Rousey came in, because I was with Harv. I was also a fan of her in the beginning because it was exciting, just somebody like Ronda Rousey going back into a wrestling ring and performing. But if you look at how she was, I guess you can say, cultivated into the star that she is now, she came over with that hype. But yeah, not just her outside antics, but she goes into the ring and she's known for pretty much a good few set of moves, but she dominates everybody. Like, she dominated the entire Raw roster for pretty much the entire year. Then she went to WrestleMania, lost it, left, fine, cool, whatever. But then she came back and just pretty much made a very entertaining Women's Royal Rumble look like a joke, with her coming in, doing a few moves and winning. Then she didn't even follow up with the same storyline that was already controversial when her shoulders wasn't really fully on the mat when she got pinned by Becky Lynch. So that was another. Then she came in, feud with Charlotte, which a lot of people already have their opinions on Ric Flair's daughter. And then now it's just a continuation of it's multiple things putting together to just make Ronda Rousey just ultimately unlikable. And the chair that you hear is just, I don't know, just a name. Just name. That's really the cheers that come from name. I think most wrestling fans are like, oh my goodness, Ronda Rousey, one probably the most overpushed in-ring athletes, with Charlotte probably the over acclimated wrestler that we have now put together with all these other women rosters on. It's overbearing, and it's not going to last. And what I mean by not going to last, it's already not lasting. They're just going to milk it dry, and it's going to be painful by the end. So there's no way they can fix it. There's no way they can fix it at all, especially when she already says F wrestling, because at the end of the day, I can beat all y'all asses if I really wanted to. It's that mentality that just doesn't, it's not going to work ever anymore. Never.
Right. The thing about when she started getting booed and they have to convert her to a heel, it's not gonna be the same type of heels. Like that's just like a likable heels. Like boo, like get off the
Like-
ring, get off TV. Like it's gonna be that like we're annoyed now. There's a difference between being a likable heel and just being like, okay, you just really just need to step off and just step to the side because this ain't working. But they're gonna like I say, gonna milk it and use it because of her name. And it just depends on how long her name is just useful and can be utilized within the company.
After Charlotte, they're not really going to make no legitimate money off of her. Like, who else? I mean, I know that's a lot. Take that back. If they pair up with Becky Lynch and actually finish that storyline, they can probably milk some more money out of that. After that, no one really is going to care. It's really not. It's not going to go nowhere.
Yeah. Cool. Well, like I said, speaking of names, real quick, we're going to dive into another name that's in the WWE, and that is Mr. Austin Theory. Well, I'm sorry. I'll take that back. Theory is his name because Vince McMahon doesn't want people to use his wrestlers. I just messed up the whole thing. Vince McMahon does not want his wrestlers to use their actual names anymore, which explains Walter, which explains Austin Theory, which explains Raquel Gonzalez, which explains Raul. Got his name, but his name got changed though. But yeah.
El Toro.
Oh, El Toro, yes.
El Toro. I'm sorry, man. It just never mind.
But Cody Rhodes is the exception for it because he is Cody Luther King. But anyway, getting back on Theory real quick. He is now our new United States champion. And I'm not gonna lie, Theory was one of those people, one of those wrestlers at first where I just couldn't get into yet. You know, just he was one of those wrestlers that it's gonna take some time for you to actually get a feel for him and actually start to somewhat like him, you know, pretty much. And I feel like it's like right now, he not saying he reminds me of The Miz, but the way his building up is just, it feels like it's similar to that right now with his character. And like I said, I'm not mad at him being the United States champion. Like, you know, and especially they talking about how, you know, wrestlers get buried when they lose a title. They're saying like Finn Balor's got buried because he lost there. I don't think that was the case. I feel like that was actually the necessary buildup that he needed to, you know, advance to the next level, because that's what really helps out. You know, it's not really just taking a title, grabbing a title. It also comes from the person you take it from. And the fact that he took it from a former United States champion, a former Intercontinental champion, and a former Universal champion, it puts a lot of status on his name now that he actually won that title from a person of that magnitude. So that's just my 2 cents of Theory. What y'all think?
Harv, you go ahead.
That man is Brad Maddox. All right. He's Brad Maddox. Just get that out the way. Number one. I don't like him. He's not growing on me at all. But I agree with everything you said, Cinko. He should have beat Finn Balor for the title. He's 24. Finn Balor is 40. You got to start building these young cats. If you got to sacrifice Finn Balor, who they've been start and stop with his entire career there anyway, then that's what you got to do. That's why I disagree with your last point. It should. The fact that he's a former title holder in all these different degrees, it should hold more weight than it does because of all the start and stop pushes. His U.S. title reign was insignificant. His IC title reign was insignificant. His Universal title reign was insignificant. None of that mattered. Nobody even remembers it unless the announcers say it on TV. It should matter, but it really doesn't. And the way that they do the mid-card titles, they haven't cared about the mid-card titles in God knows how long. So it's not as emphatic as it should be. But they can use him, like we were just talking about with Jay Cargill, to build that title up and make it synonymous with him before moving him on to the next level. It's obvious that they're going to push him to the moon. And he has talent. He can wrestle. I don't like him. That's just me. I mean, he's not my flavor, but he can wrestle. He cold. He can execute. So I see why they behind him. But we just have to see how they do it. If they keep the 50-50 booking and just keep him losing, winning, like he lost at WrestleMania for Vince McMahon to win, that's more impactful to me than him winning his U.S. title. You know, that's what's going to be in my head more than that. So it's a good step. I feel like they're doing all the right things that they should do in that regard. But I'm still jury's out.
Okay, because I get it, because I was going to say I'm indifferent with his situation because his entire WWE career has been so wonky to me. Like, he started off in NXT, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It was nothing permanent. Then he was a disciple of Seth Rollins, and he lost a lot. So that didn't really mean much. Then he went back to NXT, and granted, the Way was probably one of the more entertaining factions NXT had for a while. He still wasn't winning that much. Then he came over to Raw. Again, win, loss. He had a new gimmick that stood out, but that's about it. Then he lost to a commentator who only had 3 full matches in the WWE at WrestleMania. But then the following after, he pins and beat Finn Balor, a guy with multiple accolades, a guy who came back from NXT looking better than ever, clean. He beat him clean, and the build just didn't make sense. I'm actually not mad that Austin Theory is United States champion. He, as you both were mentioning, is needed, especially since a lot of our current wrestlers who are top dog, they're like 40 plus. We need more younger guys in the ring with championship, with the name, with the story, with the storyline with them. We need that. It's just I don't agree with the build. I'm getting to a point where it's like, I'm used to just storylines not making sense. I just have to just freaking run with it at this point. And that's exactly what we're doing with Austin Theory. His build just makes no sense. His clean victory, I could understand like a roll-up had help from Vince McMahon, something. That would have made sense. But of course, storylines nowadays just doesn't make sense. So we have to roll with it. And that's where I'm at. So that's why I'm indifferent. I'm happy with the U.S. title reign, with the win. I see it obviously going places. It just, I just don't agree with how he got there.
Was it necessarily a clean win?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, he didn't do nothing, and like it was.
But Finn Balor got he lay on that turnbuckle and like that, it led up to that.
It wasn't anything he did directly to do so. It
would be like a dirty win.
Yeah, it wasn't a dirty one. It was just an unfortunate situation. That's all.
He took advantage of the situation. Yeah, it was more of an opportunity than it was dirty.
Which any wrestler, heel or face, if they saw it, it wasn't really dirty. It was just an opportunity that he took. So I see dirty as you used a weapon, you hit a low blow, you had the ref directed, you had to roll up with the tights pull. Those are dirty moves. What happened wasn't really dirty. It was like you said, an opportunity. So I call it clean. I call it a clean victory.
Oh, so okay. So opportunist wins a clean win. Got it. Cool. Makes sense. I'll give you that. Yeah, I just had to decipher between the two. That was all. Yeah, like no, they're not like. I guess for like I see like he has been lopsided, storylines and everything. But I feel like that's just how it would be for like any mid carder pretty much. There's nothing ever gonna be like a serious, consistent mid-card storyline because mid-card wrestlers. You said what?
That's the problem. None of it's not even just mid-card. It's main event. Those stories don't even make sense. We was talking about when Bobby Lashley first won the title. When they had him go for like a night.
Just have him hopped in it.
That was it didn't make sense. Like
it made sense.
Move it along.
Bobby Lashley had to win the title on the last day of Black History Month, so that's made sense.
I about him winning the title. I said they turned him face for that night to win the title.
Against the Miz. Yeah.
It didn't the story didn't make sense. Him getting the title made sense. Just like what I just said about who we talking about, Theory. Him getting the title makes sense. The story don't have to make sense anymore. That is a problem.
Yeah.
Working for now because that's the product. People, it's WWE. People gonna watch. But that's a problem. The storylines don't make sense. That's a problem.
And I think storylines started outrageously not making sense ever since Rey Mysterio won the tournament to become WWE champion, and literally that same night had to randomly go against John Cena. Cena won, and that was it. I think since that
Cena.
storyline just outrageously just did not make sense, and they didn't have to.
Yep.
Look, when you're the greatest of all time, you can do that stuff, you know. But with that, speaking of the greatest of all time, to end off the show, the GOAT, the Viper, the Apex Predator, the Legend Killer, Mr. RKO himself, the current half of the Raw Tag Team titles, Randy Orton, is celebrating his 20 years in the business. And I must say that is, and I'm gonna give a round of applause for that silent clap because my microphone's right here, so I ain't trying to be loud. But got respect to the GOAT right there himself. Got his merchandise by his wife, Slither. Go get yourself some merch. But with that being said, Randy Orton has been in the business for 20 years. We have seen him grow. We have seen him conquer a lot of obstacles, you know, some a lot earned, you know, a couple given, but that happens in the business, especially early on in the career. But no, I say no shame in that. No, I respect the man fully. He is from St. Louis. He is actually from our area in the county with the Forest and Hazelwood area. So with that, I love the man. My favorite wrestler of all time. Can't complain. Like it. So with that being said, 20 years in the business, what is your favorite Randy Orton moment?
I'll play along. I'll play along because it's 20 years in the business. I'll give him that.
Respect that man, Harv.
My here, Harv. I'll go first so that you can have time to try to think of something that amused you. I would say that my favorite moment was while Randy Orton was mid-Viper, and he was in the middle of a storyline with Triple H at the moment. He handcuffed Triple H to the ring, RKO'd Stephanie McMahon, looked at Triple H dead in his eyes, and kissed Stephanie McMahon with the most slither-like, smoothest kiss just to add insult to injury. That was probably my favorite moment of Randy Orton.
Yeah, man. Kind of popular. I'm not a Randy Orton hater. I'm a current Randy Orton hater. All right. All right.
Right now.
Orton is everything that you want out of a wrestler. That's what's crazy about WWE not being able to build people. They built Orton, they built Batista, they built Cena, they built Brock out of nothing. They built all of them. Brock's the only one that had amateur wrestling background. You know what I mean? I don't know what happened. But yeah, Orton, that whole storyline where it was some kind of compulsive disorder he said he had. I'll never forget that promo. I thought it was hilarious where he had a lawyer come out and say he had that disorder. That's when he was punting the hell out of everybody. He punted the whole McMahon family. It was glorious. But that's exactly, it wasn't that exact moment. It was going to be when he punted Vince. When he punted the hell out of Vince. When he said that he had that little disease that caused him to just be violent for no reason. That was the whole storyline. And that happened before he got to Stephanie and dropped her on her head and kissed her. But yeah, that was my favorite storyline out of Randy Orton, period.
Oh, for me, I got two. My first, and I'll say, when Randy Orton probably performed his biggest and best RKO. And it was probably the biggest St. Louis RKO because he did to another St. Louis native with Evan Bourne. So yeah, this St. Louis connection RKO when he did off was a sharpshooter?
Shooting star break.
Shooting star, yeah, something started with S. Yeah, he did that. Yeah, he landed RKO. So that was one. And my second favorite one would have to be when he beat John Cena to become the unified world heavyweight champion, WWE champion, that latter match.
Yeah.
That's mine right there. So yeah. But I really feel like this, and I saw this question on Instagram too, saying which favorite Randy Orton version is yours. So last question. What is your favorite version of Randy Orton?
The Viper. The Viper outshines current day RK Bro and Legend Killer. It just does. It was more sinister. It was more organic. It was scary for quite a few moments, and it showed the peak, the apex that Orton can and has reached. So Viper,
yeah.
No.
It was the top of his character work, and it was the top of his gimmick. I absolutely agree. It was everything compiled into one perfectly. He had the look down. He was menacing. You know what I'm saying? You just didn't think anybody that got in the ring with Orton was going to be safe. You know what I mean? So I agree. Yeah, Viper, hands down.
I agree too. That's my favorite one too, Viper.
You actually got to also realize the transition. A lot of times when wrestlers transition gimmicks, it's more like from one extreme to another. But if you notice, the Legend Killer just kind of transformed from, I'm not just going after legends. I want to go after everybody now, and I want to keep going. I want to make it more vicious. It had like a really good organic transition. It didn't even look like a night or day switch. It just looked like it just grew into that character, which is another thing I like to have seen from that.
That's right. Like I said, big shouts to Randy Orton. Happy 20 years in the business. Proud, big fan, especially me. I'm a big fan of yours too. Hopefully, you get to see one day, get a picture, get an autograph or something. I need that. Hit that pose. On that, we are out. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for supporting everything. This is episode 48 of Another Rose Podcast. Hashtag KTR. We are KTR. Before we log out, y'all got to do this one simple favor for us, and that is to follow us on all social media platforms, KTR_podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Another Rose Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, Another Rose Podcast, all podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, we're on everything. And don't forget to get your merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/KTR Podcast and subscribe. At the end, get a little flavor. But that is the first 48, episode 48, Another Rose Podcast, hashtag KTR. We are KTR, and we are out.
Big Harv, Big Harv, Big Harv. What should they do, Big Harv?
Boy, Cinko was just flowing like Bone Thugs real quick, though, wasn't he? Didn't he rattle that off real quick?
He showed it. It's becoming natural for him now.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. He was rattling off like Bone Thugs. Bone Thugs had a hit called Pump Pump. Y'all pump them numbers, baby. All right.
Yeah, numbers, letters, all symbols of man-made devices that could cripple us all. Improve we can panicking when storm hits and knocks out the power grid. Are you fully prepared to live off the grid? How you figure